Sheffield, and Ken Loach is with me. Good of you join us, Ken. Thank you very much.
Pleasure to come.
What prompted this work? Why did you want to make this contribution?
Well, I think the presentation of Jeremy Corbyn in the media has been very unfortunate. I think it's not been fair, to be honest. And when you see him speak to ordinary people just in smaller meetings, not the big rallies, I mean, he's terrific at those, but it's the smaller meetings where he listens to people's concerns, they hear what he has to say, and there's an interaction that I haven't seen with other politicians. It's very genuine, it's very warm, and it's very serious.
Is it a case of preaching to the converted in these meetings? I mean, I'm just wondering how you assess his skills in terms of converting people, bringing people to his side, or those people actually who have principles that he shares with them anyway.
Well, I mean, these are people who wanted to meet him, and they tended to support him. But they brought their concerns. People who had nowhere to live, people insecure at work. How do you invest in areas that have been blighted, where old industries are gone and nothing's been put in its place? Those people that feel neglected and alienated, and how he talks to them. The aftermath of the illegal war, you know, a shocking thing. Why people left under Blair and Brown, because they were disgusted by the Labour Party of those days, and what's new, and what he has to say.
There's a very powerful section, in fact, I think we were just going to see part of it there, where a student talks about levels of debt, gets quite upset and says, you know, look, there are lots of people who are struggling as young people to get through education and university and wondering whether, you know, it's worth it. His answers to these people, are they convincing? How would you characterise the answers? More than just sympathy?
Well, absolutely. I mean, his answers about debt is to change the funding for universities. The guy who said he was inspired by him is about the return of work, investment in industries in those areas that have been neglected, a council house building, investment in public housing, because we've got a huge housing crisis which is not being discussed. So I think, well, you'd have to see the whole film to find out.
Of course. To what extent, I'm sure it does, I'm just, because I'll watch it with interest, are you reflecting what lots of people tell me, and they've been to these meetings, is quite a wide variety of people. So you can't pigeonhole people who come to these meetings and say they're all, you know, long-standing, left-wing, you know, campaigners. Actually, there's a remarkable cross-section of people from different walks of life there. Is that something that you reflect as well?
Well, I mean, we only did two sequences. It's not really a film, it's just two sequences. I mean, this was in Sheffield, in one of the poorest areas of Sheffield. So people were concerned really about work, really about getting, how could they find security of work and jobs that weren't temporary or agency works, but that would provide them and their families with a living, because many were the working poor. So those were the principal concerns. It's just, how do we live a decent life again?
We're just, as I said, we're just seeing some of the material here. But a very important question. You have Neil Kinnock, himself originally from the left of the party, saying just a few days ago, I saw him on the BBC Panorama programme, saying he's no longer sure whether he'll see another Labour government in his lifetime. He's 74 now. That's one heck of a statement from him. First of all, what is your take on that? And secondly, because, sorry to lump them together, because of course lots of what he said was based on his belief that you need to win power in order to make these changes, and that he didn't think Mr Corbyn was the guy who was going to do that. What is your perception of that?
I'm not sure Neil Kinnock's our best advisor on how to win power, since he failed so signally. I think when he talks of him on the left of the party, remember what his role in the miners' strike. The miners in South Wales will have very harsh memories of Neil Kinnock and Roy Hattersley. I think just remember that Jeremy Corbyn has trebled the membership of the Labour Party. You don't do this through unpopularity. These aren't all entries from some left sect. This is the vast majority of them, many of them coming to politics for the first time. When you hear what the programme is, people warm to it, and people will come to it. And I'm absolutely convinced that Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell can win. I mean, who is not in favour of a health service that isn't being set up for private contractors, that is fully funded? The whole junior doctors dispute would be swept away with a programme like that. It wouldn't exist. I think when you hear what the programme is, and it's presented in a way that allows time for it to be heard, I think people will flock to Labour.
You think he's going to win on Saturday?
I don't know. I wouldn't count any chickens. I don't know. I mean, the great scandal, Hugh, in this election has been the purging and the removal of a third to a quarter of the members at a date arbitrarily set. These are full members joining before there was any leadership election, and the headquarters of Labour headquarters have removed them from the list. Why? Because they probably support Jeremy Corbyn. And I hear, and I don't know if you hear this too, there's probably up to 40,000 people being purged. A typical example was a guy who supported something the Greens had advocated in 2013. Well, you'll remember Sean Woodward, the Tory, who crossed the floor and was immediately a minister under Labour. Now, there's a kind of unprincipled disregard for democracy by those people at the top of the Labour Party organisation that have sabotaged Jeremy Corbyn.
But there's no suggestion, Ken, is there, that those changes ultimately will affect the result? I mean, John McDonnell seemed to be, he seemed to be very, they seem to be quite confident that Jeremy Corbyn will win. And I suppose my question to you, if that is the case, and it's, you know, it's an if, I know it's an if, is when he talks about wiping the slate clean with lots of those MPs, dozens of MPs, Labour MPs who've made it quite clear that they don't have confidence in him. Is it possible to wipe the slate clean? And is it possible for Labour, even at a parliamentary level, to start, performing as a united force again?
Well, I think it's down to the Labour MPs. I mean, I would think the primary responsibility is those MPs to respect the democracy of the party, if Jeremy Corbyn does in fact get back. And they might have stitched it up in such a way that he doesn't, you never know. But if he gets back, then the membership will have made their decision. They're there to represent the members because they were chosen by the members. Yes, they were elected by the whole constituency, but they were only chosen as candidates because they were Labour. They wouldn't be there if they weren't Labour. The Labour Party has decided this is the man and this is the leadership they need. They have an absolute obligation to respect that. If they don't, well, that's down to them. But I think that people would be very angry if they continue to sabotage him, continue to describe party members, as Tom Watson did, as a rabble. That's a disgraceful thing. And when they say, well, he's not very popular in the opinion polls, well, no one would be popular if the people who are meant to support you in Parliament were attacking you. It would be impossible for him to do well in the polls.
But the polls, of course, are an indication of likely support at this point, and that's why, we can dismiss polls, and polls are wrong, sometimes we know that, but they are an indication, aren't they?
Yes, but he's in that position because of the attacks. It's because Neil Kinnock coming out and saying what he said. I mean, he is responsible for those low polls. He is responsible, and people like him.
We'll find out everything on Saturday, Ken.
We will, after the football results.
Get your priorities right.
Well, absolutely.
Nice to see you. Thank you very much for coming in.
No, the pleasure, Hugh.
Thank you very much. Ken Loach there for us, the director, of course, and talking about his role in the Labour leadership election.